All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Success Podcast. I'm really excited today because the guests are some of my favorite people in the whole world. I owe a lot of who I am to them, along with my whole marriage, for the fact that they were the ones that set me and my wife up, and they're my best friends. So I want to introduce you guys to John and Kaylee Powers. They are a husband and wife real estate team, and really successful in the field, and also just all around great people. So welcome, John and Kaylee.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Hello, hello.
Of course. I would love for you guys to start by just telling us a little bit about you guys. Who are you? Who are the Powers?
Well,
You can start.
this is John. This is my husband. We've been married for 8 years
Yes.
in a couple weeks.
Yep.
8
In a
years.
couple weeks.
We have 4 kiddos now
Mm-hmm.
that are very young. The oldest is 5.5, and they go down from there.
To 9 weeks.
Yes, to 9 weeks. And we've lived in Virginia Beach for
About 10 years.
10 years. That's in a nutshell.
Yeah. Got into real estate 7 years ago, which was a fun journey I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your business. We'll start with as it stands today, and then we'll go back to the archives.
Sure. It's gone through many forms. Right now, our business is, we have a real estate team. It's a little smaller than it's been at other times, and it's just kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's efficient. Like, we have the majority of the business from the team is just coming from myself. We have a full-time employee who does a lot of marketing and some assistant type of roles, is just random help with wherever we need it, staging, things like that. Kaylee is not in production at the moment. And then we have one other agent with us at the moment. We've had since we started, we kind of jumped in on a team, but then it's looked a lot of different ways since then. It's always been some form of a team. But we're kind of we realized we wanted to get the foundation strong and not worry about adding people. And we're feeling like, okay, we're at a great point to begin to grow again.
There have been lots of different iterations of what it's looked like in the 7 years that we've been doing this. So some years there's 2 agents, some years there's 7 with support staff, and anywhere in between. So it's looked lots of different ways.
Yeah.
And the journey through all that, I'm sure, has been very interesting. So tell us a little bit about what were you doing before you jumped into real estate, and then how did you decide to go the real estate route?
Well, I was doing sales for a company it was a copier company, and they did IT services, and it was outside sales jobs, so I'd be knocking on businesses' doors all over Hampton Roads, and was serving real estate clients, financial clients, and insurance was my vertical, and
I got my master's in social work and was working at a children's psych hospital in Norfolk.
Yeah.
Very different from real estate.
Very different.
Like we have, I mean, John, sales is, there's a lot that would translate there.
Mm-hmm.
But for Kaylee, that is a very different experience. What was that like working there? I mean, and going from social work to real estate is just kind of like 2 totally different worlds.
I would have never thought that getting my undergrad and master's in social work, I would have ended up in real estate. But God had different plans, and it's been really neat to see. And it's been quite a journey, quite a process to get to that point. There's a few things that I do feel like I can use from what I learned in social work, because it is a really stressful, it can be a stressful experience for people to walk through with, talking about this amount of money that I'm putting towards something. And so I do feel like there's certain things as I'm talking to clients that I am able to use. But for the most part, it's a very different profession.
And I hadn't thought about the like people part of real estate. That's their emotions. You're kind of like meeting a client in one of the biggest transactions of their life, one of the biggest decisions that they'll make. Right. And what they're kind of bringing with that, and the ability to have been trained on how do we handle people how do we like sit with people and lead them when their emotions are flaring in lots of different directions. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And, you know, as a little girl, well, I'm sure we'll get into this, but we jumped into the business because my grandmother had a really successful real estate business in Virginia Beach. And so long story short, we jumped in with her. And so we can get into that more if we want to. But when I was young, I remember going on showings with her or like following her around, going into these beautiful homes in Virginia Beach and thinking like, whoa, this would be so fun to do. And then, you know, middle school, high school, college, I don't think that was top of mind. And so it's just interesting that as a young adult, it kind of came back around to be an opportunity.
Yeah. So tell us about that. You guys are, you know, very freshly married, very different jobs, you know, not working together in general. And then how did the real estate opportunity with your grandmother arise?
So a friend of ours, actually, good friend named Ryan, came to us. He had just moved out of town and was thinking about getting into real estate. And so he came and said, John, Kaylee, I would love to connect with Kaylee's grandmother about real estate. I want to learn about it. Like, do you think she'd talk to me? I know she's been so successful at it. We're like, yeah, I mean, she's great. She would probably happily talk to you. So I remember going to talk to her, saying, hey, Brenda, would you talk to a friend of mine who's thinking about getting into real estate in Annapolis? And she said, sure, I'd love to. And she goes, you know, you and Kaylee should come and work with me, like in the same conversation. And it was just kind of like, huh, I wasn't expecting that, but that's an interesting idea. And I remember going back and telling Kaylee that, and we were living really close by to her at the time. So I just walked back over to our house, and it was funny because I've always liked real estate, and I really wanted to have my own business was kind of the main driver. I knew the job that I was at, I wanted to leave and as quick as I could find something that was going to make sense. And I was kind of just looking and waiting for the right opportunity. So I was immediately like my ears perked up to that. And so we began exploring it together. And at first, what did you think of it, Kaylee?
I think I was open to it, but it had just never crossed my mind as something that we would maybe be jumping into. So it took me a little bit to wrap my head around it. And we decided, let's take some time, pray about this, like really intentionally pray about this, and see what direction the Lord is, you know, urging us to go. And so we did that for 40 days and really just felt like the Lord was saying, all right, take the next step. And so we, in the evenings, we get off work and we did our course. And then we'd pray, all right, are we supposed to do something? We finished the course. Pray about it again. All right, let's take the test. And so it was a one step at a time act of faith. But no, I didn't think that conversation would necessarily result in us like jumping into the business with her.
Yeah.
But
I remember you being really like you spent a lot of time, effort, money, and schooling for to get your master's in social work. And so it was like, this feels so different from what I'm doing today. And like, can I do this? Is it going to work? All those questions. And then the ideas of like going from salary, and then mine was salary and commission, to like just straight commission.
And both of us at the same time to leave our salaries and to not make any money for who knows how long was a leap of faith. Like, we're just going to have zero income until we sell our property.
That's what I remember thinking the most, like, wow, you guys are really taking a huge jump, because the rational, like, worldly way to think about that would be, well, why don't you keep your job and do this on the side? Or one of you goes in full time, the other person sort of, you know, supports the family while, you know, maybe doing this on the weekends.
Yeah.
But you guys really, like, I just remember it was, you know, within a month or two that you both quit your jobs, and it was like, all right, here we are. We're just in this, doing it and learning it together. You know, it wasn't as though one of you already had the experience and kind of could just welcome your spouse into it. You guys were just, okay, Powers are just doing this.
Yeah, it was a wild time. I'm glad we did it, though, but there was a lot to figure out at the beginning. So many new things. Newly married, new at working together. And within a year of working together, we were pregnant with our first baby. So it was a lot.
The timeline there is just wild.
It was a lot to figure out.
It's a lot of change very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, what was that like there's going to be a lot. I'm going to ask about what that's been like in a lot of regards. But the first one is, just financially, which you've talked about kind of briefly. But I think a lot of people are scared to take the leap, A, into entrepreneurship, B, into, commission-only income, and really just into a level of unknown and kind of lack of quote-unquote security when, all the messaging from the world is like, go get a good job, security, security, security. What was it like to go from, hey, we're pretty comfortable, we've got a steady amount of income coming in regularly, to, like Kaylee said, we're not making any money until we sell a home?
Mm-hmm. You can go.
I think it was a leap of faith to just believe, like, hopefully a sale will come up in the first couple months. Like, hopefully we'll be able to pay our rent. But at the same time, I knew that the profession that I was in before, we knew we wanted to grow our family eventually, and it didn't feel like a profession that I felt comfortable remaining in and growing our family. So the timing did feel like unique and a blessing in that, okay, I could see myself doing this and like having a child or a couple of children. And so the unknown piece was, how long is it going to take for us to like put some money in our bank account to be able to pay our rent?
That definitely. And there was a measured approach piece to it where we thought, okay, what's our bank account look like today? At the time, we didn't own a house. We didn't have pretty much I think we had paid off Kaylee's student loans, and we were pretty much debt free. So we had not a lot of fixed expenses, and we felt like we had saved a good amount. So we knew there was some piece to that of like, okay, we did that kind of, I know people talk about this a lot, getting to real estate. Can you go 6 months? Can you go a year without making anything? So we didn't want to do that, but we were like, okay, we can do it if we have to. It would really stink. And, in hindsight, it seems silly because we didn't realize, we didn't know, working with Kaylee's grandmother, there were some opportunities that came. I can remember, I think my second day in the office, I ended up sitting down, just going on an appointment with Kaylee's grandmother and myself. And we're in the north end of Virginia Beach, one of the nicest neighborhoods. And we sit down with a seller that wants to sell their $1 million house on the oceanfront, or one block from the ocean. And I was like, whoa, well, this is not what I was expecting. This is awesome. And that was, we did end up selling that house, but it was it took like a year because the market was totally different at the time. And it was a lot of me having to just thrown into the deep end and figuring it out, and ended up running more point on that than expected. Than anybody expected, the sellers, myself or Brenda. So, there was some good financial. We had a strong start, and also many of our friends bought homes in that first 18 months that we were in the business. It was a great, like, timing wise for just where the life stage was for most of our friends. So, because we were 25 at the time. Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of, like, this is not what I was expecting stories from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Like, of course, we thought we were getting into business with my grandmother, and she was going to be setting us up in all of these relationships and introducing us. This is Kaylee and John. You can trust them. Mm-hmm. They would love to help you, find a home or sell your home. And we pretty quickly realized that she had a sickness that was developing that required her to step out of the business.
Yeah,
within the first
4
to 6 months.
Yeah, definitely by the end of the year.
So, a lot of stories of this isn't what I was expecting when we said the yes to jumping in.
Yeah,
and I remember Brenda stepping out of the business, and you guys kind of going through that of like, we do have all of these contact, like we have names and addresses of people she served in the past, but that relationship was not passed off, right, other than, mailings and social media that was kind of working together. Mm-hmm. But by no means is that like a bait and switch, but it's like I was not expecting that. Like this is one of the first big entrepreneurial curveballs.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
like I'm on
That's a
this
good way to
team with
put
my
it.
grandmother who has a great reputation, a great book of business, and now she's gone. And now we're kind of left to like carry the team, pick up the pieces. What was that like for you? Because not only are you building your business, but there were other teammates at the time,
Yeah.
including an admin that I think was predominantly there for Brenda, if I remember.
Yes.
So
I've been there for 30 years.
yeah, and
So.
you guys are the newest people on the team, but are now in charge of the team. So I guess like what?
Yeah.
Walk me through that dynamic, because that's a lot to take on in your first year of. Most people who are in real estate who get on a team are at least on the team for 3 to 5 years
Right.
before going independent on their own. It's not, I'm on a team, holy crap, now I'm in charge of the team, or, you know.
Well, we tried to just be humble as we went because we knew we needed a lot. There was a lot to learn. But it was an interesting dynamic. And I think it kind of happens in family business where somebody might, get an opportunity that somebody outside of the family didn't get. So you're trying to be like, how do I steward this well, be humble, do good by anybody else involved with this business, and also like rise to the occasion. And so we're grateful for everybody that was a part of the team then that gave us grace and worked with us. And luckily that was all good relationships. And where was I going with that? Do you want to add anything?
There was also a funny dynamic of they had created systems that worked really well for them.
Yeah.
And we were coming in our mid-20s, and we saw opportunities for, wow, there's way more efficient ways to keep up with clients or to keep all this information straight. And so that was a unique dynamic at first.
Yeah.
Like
An
okay.
example, this CRM was from the maybe early 90s, like 20 years old.
Oh, no.
And it was based only on the computer. Like there was kind of a cloud version, but it was,
It's like desktop version.
Yeah,
You're
it's like 2018,
got...
so it's not like it was that long ago. There was definitely a lot of options available. So that was a big, like, how do we do this? How do we take these 10,000 contacts and figure out who's who, who's alive, where did they go, and get that organized? That took years. But I enjoyed that. I feel like that's something I like doing, and it was now we have it really dialed in, but whew, that was a journey. We got a lot of help doing that. But I was thinking, one other thing that was really interesting when we're starting is I think we're 25, 26 years old, and a lot of our clients in that first year or two were probably 3 times our age. And I can remember our clients saying to me stuff like, oh, you're like younger than my grandson. But I was like, okay, yeah. And here I am. We're having this conversation, and you have chosen me to work for you. So we just really had to kind of like step into it, own it. And
what's really beautiful about that is when your grandson is inheriting this house, I will be there to help.
Yeah. And that was, luckily, I mean, for me, I was like, all right, these doors were open. We had the initial conversation, and at the end of the day, they entrusted us to move forward with them. And but I can remember that was a hard dynamic to work through at the beginning for me to just like, got to step it up, got to show up for these people. We were both trying to figure that out. And
which I'm sure is like a universe. I mean, I love that you said that or brought that up, just because I believe that that's probably a universal experience for anybody in sales, especially real estate, who's young. I remember being 25 and wanting people to trust me with their whole life savings. And being like, I can do a financial plan for you. And they're like, that's cute. Like,
right.
I genuinely remember one of my mentors being like, you should really wear glasses or something to make yourself look a little older. I was like, sick.
Yeah.
But, that's just part of the world. You're like, hey, I've got to get my reps in. I need people to trust me. People are trusting me. And so now it's just a matter of not knowing everything, but being committed to out serving and hustling and being a learner in it, Tell me about kind of the journey from there. Because that first year, there was a lot of unexpected curveballs.
Yes.
And when I think of the iterations of your business over the years, it's really grown and evolved beautifully and gone through seasons, and you guys have gone through, the early 2020s where, selling homes was really easy because the market was really hot, to prices went up and interest rates went up, and you've had to navigate lots of seasonality in just the market itself. So for you guys, what has that looked like when you reflect back on that, and what were some of the keys to success? What were some of the things that you're like, man, this was a lesson learned, or this was a thing we've done that's really carried us through, highs and lows of the business?
You want to go with that? Okay, I would say that first year we joined, we were the Brenda Rawls team, and we realized
Brenda Rawls' star team.
That's right, Brenda Rawls' star
Don't forget
team.
the star.
We voted to remove the star pretty quickly because it wasn't. Anyways,
It wasn't really doing it for you.
yeah, wasn't my favorite thing, but anyways, we went from Brenda Rawls star to Brenda Rawls team to Powers and Rawls. We were like, we got to do some kind of rebrand, and we talked with Brenda about this and how do we do this, because we knew that she was going to leave faster than we expected.
But we also wanted to honor her and the legacy that she had created. And so.
Yeah. So in the midst of that, we did met with a friend in marketing that did the whole rebrand with us and logo and design and all that stuff. And then we came up with a campaign. How do we communicate this to everybody? So it was a mix of, that was kind of fun, to magazine articles and newspaper, like Virginia Pilot articles and mailers, and just trying to get that story out to as many people as we could, that especially past clients and people that would know the name in the community. So that was that journey. And then we were a team, but we were, we'd never managed or owned a business or had people working under us. So we were trying to figure that out, but we also knew we needed help. And we were trying to be entrepreneurial in the sense of like, what's the highest and best use of our time? How can we hire somebody to help us with these pieces of the business? So we began that. We hired our first assistant, probably first year into the business, as the great longtime assistant who had been with Brenda for 30 years, also decided to retire. And so that was good. It was kind of our first foray into like first employee. How does this work? How do we do this? And then over time, in the coming years, we ended up adding some agents, mostly by people coming to us. It wasn't a lot of, or the assistant on the team would turn into an agent or wanted to do both. We haven't been like majorly recruiting to grow the team, though we believe in the team aspect and the service that we can provide as being superior than if we were on our own. So yeah, that's been kind of our focus, and we've gone through, like you were saying, 2020 was really strong. We were doing great. In 21, so our first 2 or 3 years in the business, we just kind of had a steady growth pattern. And then we had our second child, Kaylee. After our second child was born, Eleanor, she started moving out of the business a little bit more. And so more of it came on me, and I was like, shoot, we want to make the same amount, but now it's just one person producing this, not two. And we started looking at some other investment opportunities. I had a farming business with my brother in Lexington, where I was kind of the finance and operations guy, but from 4 hours away. And that was interesting. We also, that same year, did an Airbnb. I think that was 2021, right? Or
Yes.
22. And when people were having really strong, a lot of people, I think it was 2022, had great years in real estate. And we had gone down in our business from the years before. And a lot of people had probably, grown by doubling their business or major amounts. And so there was a bit of we got distracted. We started focusing on other things. Some of them were good. Some of them were not, had any return on them. There was a lot of shift. So then that was, and then since then we've been back on the up and up for a few years, which has been really fun. And there's more to that story, but that's kind of the overarching story to where we are today.
And when you came back to saying like, okay, we've done the farm business, the Airbnb, now we're kind of dialing it back in to Powers and Rawls. What kind of what have you initiated there that's led to the kind of up and up over the last few years? Because there's lots of, realtors who, because 22 and 23 overall were, I would say market wide, probably harder years, but you guys were the top producers at your brokerage. You guys have had consistent production, which is really amazing. One of the reasons why you guys are so successful, but I'm sure there are people that are like, what are they doing? Because there's less inventory and less, going on. And you guys have seemed to be able to continue to produce pretty heavily.
Mm-hmm. I'll let you expound on this, but what comes to mind is we hired a coach.
Yes. Yeah.
We really focused in, like you were saying, we did get distracted. We thought that this opportunity in this farming business was going to prove to be really successful. And that was distracting of our time. The Airbnb ended up working out and has still been a great thing. But and then hiring a full-time admin. Mm-hmm. I'd say those three things have been keys to success in like the most recent years.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And also a refocus on past clients and our sphere of influence instead of chasing the shiny penny of like, oh, let's pay for these leads over here or chase this person that we've never met before and don't really know. And kind of they can be harder transactions, and just being like, let's care for our community. Start doing things like client events and just spending more time with the people we've already worked with or friends of theirs, and just wanting to make it more about a community because we love that part anyways. It's like what makes us come alive. Yeah. And so it makes the whole thing more fun. And I was realizing like it'd just be easy to sit in the office and be like in the CRM reaching out to somebody that reached out through Google leads or something like that I have no clue who they are. Or I could pick up the phone and call this past client or friend or both and say, you want to get coffee, and just not even make it about real estate. It's just connecting with people and then bringing the value around home ownership wherever we can, but not making it that has to be at every part of what we're doing. And it just kind of had a natural flow to it and made it more fun for us.
I think about my business coach, and she says, if you work the system will work. And what she means by that is like, you can go the leads route, you can go the big, sexy marketing route, you could go the relational route. And like all of those will lead to success if you want to go those routes and you work it. But what's the path that like you said, brings you to life? What's the thing that's, what do you enjoy doing? Just go do that. Like make business fun again. Yeah. And, and when you really are caring about people and like just being relational and kind of living in your gifts, it is amazing how the Lord provides and how, you have a bigger impact. Like you two uniquely are like community builders. Like you guys are vision setters in the community. You have a dramatic impact on the community. And so just kind of living in that and caring for people, it's cool to see like that's kind of along with obviously coaching and kind of, like you said, making the most of your time hiring an admin. Yeah. You're not just like, I'm just having fun and business is happening. Yeah. But to kind of go into the places where your strengths are is really cool. Like I love that is kind of where you've landed the last few years. And again, to see that that's paying off.
Yeah. I would say I got to add to that for consistency, we were not consistent. And it's so simple, but just doing the things like making your phone calls, setting meetings, having better systems, all the stuff you're mentioning that too. But I think having a real estate coach, we also had a life coach, and that was super helpful relationally in the midst of all of this. And how do we stay connected? How do we lead well? How do we take ownership of our choices? But the real estate coach piece was super helpful from a business standpoint, just for me to show up consistently, to be tracking the numbers, to be making the phone calls. And that little bit, I still am not perfect at it, but those little incremental changes over time have made the difference in our business. It's so evident from 2023, where we were coming off of a bad year, and even the beginning of 2023, we were in a really low point, feeling like, man, everything's falling apart. this business is not doing well. Like, I don't know if we should keep doing this. The consistency was one of the big things that got us out of that slump, because that's an interesting, I mentioned 2022 not being what we had wanted to be when we look back on the year. Then 2023, the beginning of that year, I just felt like I was working really, really hard, and we were about to have our first boy, James, and I was run ragged, and I felt like every deal was falling apart. And there's a fun story there. Can I share?
Of course.
So it's April of 2023, and we're at a really low point. I'd say I'm depressed. I'm kind of like, I don't know if we should do real estate. Kaylee and I are, because I'm not doing well, Kaylee and I aren't as close as we wanted to be. And we got invited to this worship weekend out at my brother's farm, which is in Lexington, Virginia. So it's like 4 hours away, but it was kind of a funny dynamic because there was a couple of churches from Virginia Beach and friends that we knew that were going to put this together, this kind of like 48-hour tent worship weekend. And we're like, this is kind of wild. This is different for us, but sounds cool. And so people came from all over to this, and trying to make a long story short, so Kaylee and I go to it, kind of like almost didn't go. We're really running on empty coming into this weekend. And we go there and we feel like we just have a powerful experience with God. Where by the end of the weekend, we were walking away just totally, we got freed from a bunch of heaviness and lies that we were telling ourselves. And it was healing in our relationship. It was just healing personally too. And what was so cool about that is I can remember driving home and being like, I was just lighthearted and joyful. And I was like, Kaylee, I don't know if we're supposed to keep doing this real estate thing. And that's okay if not. But I trust that God has something for us here.
Mm-hmm. There was a surrendering.
Yeah. Total surrendering. It just felt like freeing. And like, okay, maybe this isn't the thing. Maybe we'll do something different, but it's okay. We're going to be fine. And what was wild was, I'm forgetting the exact numbers now. I think I'm getting backwards, but we got all of a sudden within like 4 weeks, we had
like 9 deals, I think.
Yeah. 9 deals under contract. Wow. And we had the most successful, 2 months we'd had in business up to that point. And it just kind of started a new journey with the business of like, okay, we need to let go a little bit, keep showing up like we've been doing, but it's not so much about how much I can do and just hand it over to God and trust.
Mm-hmm.
It was the beginning of New John.
It was the beginning of New John in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I remember that weekend. Lindy and I didn't go on it, but I distinctly remember like the Wednesday before we were hanging out and you were stressed because you were like, I don't know if I can afford to go. Maybe Kaylee goes and, I've got showings.
I should do open houses this
I should do open houses. I need to drum up business. And I remember us kind of as a group processing, like, I think you should go. Like, you need to spend time with your family and it's going to be good. You should just go and then you came back the next week and we're like, let me tell you about what happened.
I'm a new man.
I know. Well, and yeah, it was really powerful to see that it wasn't just a single, like, I had a great weekend and I feel refreshed. But I mean, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like some of these themes are still true. Like you were speaking at, I want to say it was like a Berkshire panel.
Yeah.
And like what you were saying was like, I feel like you guys should just like hold it loosely and trust the Lord. And like, that's not quite the advice we would typically hear at one of these things.
Right.
But I love that that's, that is a part of the story was like you got to a place where you were so white knuckled on the business, trying to make it happen, that coming to a place of surrendering it and trusting the Lord and saying, I'm gonna do the reps. I'm gonna do the consistent things.
Right.
But and maybe this will be great, or maybe we do something else. But I'm gonna hold life looser and focus on the things that matter: my faith, my family, and then how sweet it is that almost like a gift from the Lord, where it's like, yes, here you go. here's 9 deals. Here's the best year yet. And
I think we flipped our first house that year. That was very good.
yeah.
Just like, whoa, holy moly.
And that
Things-
could have been a stressful thing that was pulling you guys apart, but
I think one thing we've realized in this whole process is we really enjoy partnering on things together. And so while often people are like, oh, you're in business together, like that must be hard. That must be tough on your marriage.
Yeah.
I think there are aspects that have been challenging, but overall, it's been a really fun and unifying experience for us. We work really well together. And so in our years where we were both full-time in the business, it was fun to get to partner on all these different projects. Sometimes we would partner on even a listing together. And so we're co-listing this property and so building the relationship with these clients together. And then as years have gone on and our family has grown, it's looked more like, all right, we're flipping this property together. And those have been really fun projects that are like bringing us together. We're working on this thing. And so I think that there's this partnership piece that's really sweet as well for us.
Yes, for sure.
yeah, I would love to jump into that more because I do think most people look at husband and wife couples and be like, how do you have a personal relationship and a business relationship, and how do you not get sick of each other, and kind of all those like worldly thoughts. And I feel like I've experienced you guys grow in this partnership. Like, I feel like it's always been there. You guys have always been a really dynamic duo. It's what makes you guys the Powers. But at the same time, like, you've had your marriage coach and you've put in a lot of work into your relationship. And in the early days, we're navigating how do we go on dates and not, talk about work. And
Yeah, how do we lay down put our head on the pillow and not talk about work?
Yeah. And so I like speak to that because, it's a really beautiful thing. And there are other husband and wife couples who try and do this and it's really hard. And others who might be thinking about it, but be like, I could never work with my spouse, So what's that been like?
We definitely learned from our mistakes a lot at first.
Yes, for sure. I was thinking the same thing.
I do remember, it helped for me to just, get something out of my head. And I probably should have put it on a sticky note by my bed, but we'd be laying down to go to sleep, and I would just say it, oh, we need to remember to call this person tomorrow. And John would just spiral. Then he can't sleep because he's thinking about all these other things. And I'm like, oh, well, now I can go to bed.
I feel great.
And then just be laying there angry.
So we messed up a lot, and
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That was where the getting resources, first it was a counselor and then a life coach, and we stuck with our life coach, Julia, for years and still get with her. She's so valuable to our marriage and all our friendships.
Which at the time, it wasn't like we were in this really rocky place. It wasn't like we need help. It was like, we know that there's more. We know that our marriage can, there are deeper places that we can go with one another. We can know each other better. We can be a greater resource to each other and our community and our growing family. And so, let's figure out how to do that. Let's figure out what that is. And so there was a piece of, we just know that there's more that made us want to reach out to our life coach.
True.
And what was that like, kind of going into those waters with Julia? What were some of the things you guys learned or takeaways?
Well, I can remember learning that just feeling exposed at the beginning, whoa, okay. It's a lot of looking at yourself, not looking at even the relationship some, but not so much looking at it, kind of starting to realize okay, got to keep the focus in. What can I control? What choices am I making? And a very clear thing for me that was a simple concept that a lot of people have heard of, but it's just so powerful, is ownership versus victimhood mentality. And taking ownership of the decisions you've made and the decision you're ongoing making. And I just love to play the victim card. And so I had to expose that, and it's not fun to look at because it's just messes with your ego, and it's a pattern that you've done for a long time, and I had done. So that was a big one, and we both had that in different forms. So we're just kind of looking at kind of these. Another thing was the dances that we had in how we would. That was just the term we would use for it. So kind of, I would do this, then Kaylee would do that, which would make me do this, and it's just these bad habits, the dances that we had in our relational dynamics. And some of that is, you're repeating the past because it's comfortable to you. It's maybe what you saw your parents do, and that can be conflicting. It's an ongoing journey as we're learning it. But it gave us a common language to begin to talk about what was going on inside, and to just begin to understand a little bit more of what are we thinking, why are we doing what we're doing, why does this make me so upset, or that was really helpful in working together, because it's just the more we partner on, the more that stuff gets exposed. And parenting, being married, parenting, owning a business together, and specific projects like a flip or an Airbnb or friendships with other people in our community, all of that is just like so intertwined. And we feel like at this point, it's like, this is how it should be. But it's hard to get there without we needed help to do it with health.
Yeah, she did a great job of asking questions and then helping us work through our process of things like, what is the future that you long for? And then getting clear on, well, what is the future that we long for? And then, well, what's reality? Like, how are you experiencing yourself now? Is it getting you to the future that you long for? So there's a lot of those sorts of like exercises and questions.
The future that you long for? Yeah.
What is the
So basically
the hell you're headed toward, or something like that? Like,
Yeah, like what kind of your greatest fears in life and in your relationship. And it's fascinating.
And like,
to
what's
take a
holding
look
you
at
back
that.
from getting there?
Yeah. Basically, where will things go if you stay with the way you are? And that wakes you up to like, okay, like I say I want something different, but I'm not doing anything different. So what's coming to me is likely bitterness, more bitterness, which could be divorce, which could be broken home, business falling apart, family members hurt, any number of things. Just to realize that, like, if we continued like we were, it's just going to get worse and worse. We had to have some kind of interruption to where we were going. Like you said, it wasn't like we were in dire straits. We were okay, but we also could see the patterns forming that were just taking us to that wouldn't have been good.
Well, yeah, and at that point, I can imagine you're 5 years into marriage, and like you said, there's kids, there's a business, there's, you guys have moved toward each other in so many areas of your life, where many spouses have for 8 hours a day, we're not together. And then we come home and kind of reconnect, and we kind of get that space. Like, you guys have moved toward each other to where there are just naturally, circumstantially, a lot more rubs happening. And mix that with, the stories you're building about yourself, about each other, naturally it's like, okay, which I believe those rubs, when moved toward, not away, produce a lot of growth and produce a lot of insight. And, but I think it's beautiful that you guys did that, because, naturally, with having more overlap, having more rubs, having just more intensity to your life by mixing business, personal, kids, all of the above, running around in the what we call the messy middle years. It's like, I'm making money, but I also need a lot more money than I've ever needed. And, I'm covered in bodily fluids from little people, and they're screaming at me, and my house is a mess, and I'm taking a work call, and you're like, what is happening?
That's a daily experience.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, to be able to kind of step out of that, even just for a minute, to say, what am I contributing to this? Like, what is the story that's going on here that's driving me crazy? Or what's the future? Like you guys said, what's the future that if I don't change anything, I'm headed towards? And do I like that? And what am I contributing to that? And therefore, what can I control and what can I not control? I can't control the way my wife shows up to something. I can only control how I show up to something and what I'm, participating in that.
Totally. And it's interesting too, because we've actually have become a little more siloed in the last few years. I was just thinking about that when you were saying that. And that's been a whole new dynamic for us, is how do we called it like comparing our contributions. We would be like, I'm doing this, you're doing that. This is more valuable than that is. No, this is more valuable than that is. And kind of this whole dynamic back and forth. That also was not serving us well. But we chose it because we were getting something out of it for sure. And we're realizing like, okay, we've had to reorient and continue to reorient that conversation too. That's been our probably last 2 years that we're talking about a lot. And now we're finding ourselves partnering on more things again, which is fun. And I think good for our relationship. Like we have a flip going right now. We just did a pretty major renovation on our house. And that was like, it keeps us in the trenches together, in addition to everything else. But
That felt like the big kahuna of partnership.
yeah.
If anyone has flipped a property with your spouse, that is,
You mean the renovation or flipping?
sorry, the renovation on
Yeah.
your house.
Yeah.
That was challenging, but great. But if you've done it before, you know the million decisions that go into your own house.
Yeah, it's a lot more. It's different than a flip, for sure.
So, what has surprised you guys the most about the last, 7 years of real estate, or just your journey in general?
Let's see. Just going with my gut. I mean, one thing was the biggest, that kind of shift that I touched on. That was a really big surprise of just like, it seems like it's the biggest thing I've learned in my business life and in real estate. It was a lot of things mixed in there, but kind of it was a letting go of the results, but realizing I can still show up and not find my identity in the results. And it's just given me some freedom in how I approach the business and in real estate in general. And I think there's less comparison. Because it's so easy to compare in real estate. It's just like the numbers are in front of you. Everybody else's numbers are in front of you. You see so-and-so sold this house and that was my friend. What the heck happened? All that stuff that I'd like to think I've been pretty free in, but that was a big shift and a surprise. And it's been a fun piece of the journey. I hope to just keep growing in it.
I think the biggest surprise has been that I'm not sure how to summarize it best. I guess that God knew that this was going to be a great fit for John and I. And like I would have never landed in this role. And just that like I see how God is using John's gifts and my gifts to serve these clients. Like that we love staging and making things look beautiful. You're great with numbers. We love relationships. We love building community. I just wouldn't have thought that all these things that God has gifted us in would then come together in this profession. And so I think that's just surprised me.
Yeah, that's true. What it's becoming is exciting. So
It's awesome. You may have already said this, but what was the low point for you?
do you have a
I
different
feel like we've
answer
hit
than
some
me?
low points in our conversation.
Yeah, the low point. I'm trying to think of any. The first few years were tough in a lot of ways, but it was a lot of the self-doubt, the working through that. And then we kind of started to hit a stride, and then we got spread too thin, navigate all that stuff. But the low point was definitely the beginning of 2023 that I touched on. And just feeling like I was hitting my head against a wall. Like, I think I'm doing everything right. I'm working long hours and working hard and nothing's happening. And that was the low point. But I just feel like it turned. And as the saying goes, it's darkest before the dawn.
Kaylee, would you add anything?
I agree. I'm in agreement. That was a challenging start to that year, and it's cool to see the shift that came in like April, May of that year, and the transformation that happened. But I would agree that year was the hardest.
Yeah. And yeah, it's been kind of I wonder how this is all going to go. I wonder how it's going to go since then. We've been we're in the middle of like I think this will be our, Lord willing, best year in business. And last year was before that. So that's really just been such an interesting shift. It's been humbling and exciting. And so we have some fun things on the horizon with how we want to grow our team and serve our clients even better, and also figure out lifestyle piece. Like, how do we? It's just 7 days a week, nonstop for me. So that's trying to balance that. That's the biggest top of mind thing for us at this moment. But we have some fun ideas to grow our team and to continue to like be involved with all the deals intimately, and still have some help so we can spend time with our 4 little kids.
Yeah. So this is a podcast about success, but if you just go out on the street and ask anybody, how do you define success? Or like, what does success mean? You're going to get a different, very personalized answer per person. So for you guys, whether it's individually or as a family, what does success look like for you guys?
I think what comes to mind is loving what you do and who you do it with, which feels like a little bit of a cookie cutter answer. But
That's good.
I think not just loving what you're doing. If you're doing it, for me, if I was doing it alone, it wouldn't feel the same. So to like really love who I'm doing, what I'm up to each day with. And another thing that comes to mind is like setting your mind to something each day. Like what success looks like one day might look different the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
like, if one day I'm like, okay, today I know I'm going to be with like these few people, and I just really need to show up open and curious. And then if I can check in with myself at the end of that day and feel like, yeah, I really showed up open and curious, then that feels like success. And so that's what's coming to mind for me. Maybe it's I have so much I need to do today. I need to be focused and efficient. And then if I feel like at the end of the day I showed up that way, that feels like success. Or I'm going to spend the day with my kids. I need to be loving and compassionate today. Like they really need that from me. And it maybe I don't succeed, maybe I don't love them well, and maybe I'm not compassionate at the end of the day, or maybe I am. That feels like a marker for me of what success looks like.
I like that.
I love it.
Different approach, and this puts it on like the day, just rather than being like reaching this point and
making this amount of money in 5 years. It just like brings it down.
Yeah, I feel like that's cool, because it's like how you live your days, how you live your life. That's beautiful. I gotta change. I remember, so we did the first podcast together on the Financial Success podcast.
The Self-Employment Success podcast.
Self-Employment Success.
Shout out.
And I listened, and that was awesome. And I listened back to what my answer was, because I was like, huh. And it's so interesting because that was the January 2023, so I was in a kind of a low place.
You're right.
And I was listening back, thinking about that, and I was like, my answer was more around a certain amount, which gave me enough freedom to do, take care of my family and take these trips and that kind of stuff. And it's not like I don't pay attention to those metrics at all either, but my answer has gotten simpler. And I feel like it's when I stay in this place, I'm having true success, which is just like, I have Jesus. I have a relationship with the Lord, the God of the universe. What more could I ask for? Like, that's just like, mic drop. That's all. Like, it just frees up everything else. And if I can stay there, if I stay with that thought, then everything else is just, it just puts everything else in perspective.
What you just said reminds me of the scripture that says godliness with contentment is gain. Like, if I have God, I have this relationship with Jesus, and therefore I'm okay. And therefore my determination of success isn't tied to the circumstances around me.
Yeah.
It's, so therefore I can be content daily in my circumstances around me. So if it's, chaos or stressful or really successful from a worldly perspective, that's not what's driving me either. you know, I can achieve this success, but that's not fueling an unhealthy identity or anything like that either.
Like, I am valuable. I am worthy. I am successful because God loves me. Period. Like, that's it.
Yeah. All the riches in the world, it's like if I had everything, but I didn't have that, I'd have nothing. So it's just like when I got that perspective shift, I was like, woo, that's success right there.
It's awesome. Oh, man. I could just keep talking to you guys all day. You're my best.
This is fun. Thanks, Leland.
Of course. Thank you for taking time out of your day away from kids and coming into my tiny little podcast booth and
Oh, yeah. We
sharing your story with us.
We love your business. I want to turn around and interview you. Can we?
Next episode.
All right. Next episode.
We'll do that on your podcast.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks.